Hello, everyone. Welcome to another scene for Living World of Darkness Rage Across New York, the Werewolf the Apocalypse venue set in New York City. So, in this scene, we have Saoirse, who hasn't been doing so hot the last few months. Had a lot happen, and um, her her MO lately is just work. When she's on sept, she's patrolling or helping the kinfolk or just doing something to keep herself busy. And when she's not on sept, she's at home. So she hasn't been doing a lot of really socializing or anything like that. So which might be concerning to some people. And especially since she lost the tail singer position, it's gotten even more like that. So so yeah, she's on one of her patrol shifts, and it's around dusk, I would say. Not quite dark, but getting close.
So Sam is the kind of person who pays attention to things, and with the Guardians relatively in the know of precisely how much Saoirse patrols, knowing that it's more than usual, um, Sam has had the thought for a couple of days now to put forth the initiative to spend some time with Saoirse, um, maybe make a duty that's rather boring a little less, maybe. And um, he has prepared something just before getting off work, and he has put this something in the basket behind him, behind the seat on his bicycle, and as he clicks on his helmet from work, he hops on his bike and pedals on over to the sept. And when he gets there, he'll shit. We do our patrol of the Umber, don't we?
Yep. Does he have his bike dedicated to him?
Nope. Doesn't have anything.
He can do that as a glasswalker.
He can. That's all right. He'll park it in the sept parking lot. His helmet with it. He'll take his sandwiches with him, and I can roll right of dedication if you want, but if for flavor purposes, for the objects that he would like to bring across, but if for flavor you're cool with him, just
I'm fine. It's great.
Okay. STs, if you hate me, we can retroactively do this.
Yes.
But I doubt you're going to watch us anyway. But if you do, so yeah, he does a little dance, doesn't make any love, gets down tonight, and crosses over into the Umbra with two oval-shaped or oval-like shaped wrapped packages, and if Saoirse is anywhere near the sept parking lot, she'll see him just out of some underbrush.
So yeah, I'll say that she was coming upon that, and she sees somebody appear on that side, on the side of the gauntlet. Tilts her head a little bit, approaches.
And yeah, Sam lifts one of these objects in the air with his right hand and waves with it, and casually approaches.
She recognizes Sam, and she actually gives a bit of a smile.
I hope you don't mind. I just got off work, and I didn't have anything better to do tonight.
She shakes her head. No, not at all.
He nods with a smile and then casually offers the one in his right hand.
she will take it. Thank you.
Hmm?
She does realize that she has not eaten today. And she's
Ha.
like, uh, right. But you don't need to eat in the Umbra, so it's like it's easy to forget. um, but I'm sure by the time she stepped across, she'd be fucking starving. Uh, but um, but yeah, she does seem very grateful for the sandwich, and
Yeah, he nods and says, it's I don't know what you like, but it's turkey with romaine lettuce and tomatoes. It's on white.
that sounds perfect. Thank you.
Hmm.
She will unwrap and start to nibble on the sandwich politely. She's not like shoving it into her mouth or anything, but uh, she'll just motion for him to walk with her.
And he does so, unwrapping the top of his really neatly, folding it down, and starting to munch on his.
So, what's been going on in your world?
Quite a lot, actually. I've met a lot of new people. Um, well, work is, I wouldn't say exciting, but um, wouldn't exactly call it boring either.
Nods. Takes another bite.
Um, been helping out um, Jacob with the few goings on in the area. Um, aside from that, hmm, not much. Just getting situated in the city. What about you?
Um, I just roll for the most part. Try to get involved in some of the stuff going on, but like the stuff with the kinfolk. Um, I should probably get involved a little more. I just haven't. She just shakes her head. She doesn't really have the words for it. It's just he can tell that she's just been having a hard time.
No worries. Felt like kind of a hard hit when the warder kind of overrode some of the work we did. But you know, that's how warders can be, I guess.
She nods. I. I'm just. Hmm. I
Oh,
seem to have. I don't know. She shakes her head. I. I guess I just don't know where to go. And he can tell that her meaning is like in general in life and not immediately right now.
oh, he's gonna be a smartass, and he'll say, "It's actually a left up here."
I'm sorry, what?
He's gonna be a smartass and say, "It's actually a left up here." Kind of a smile on his face.
she'll she'll actually chuckle at that and and nod. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Nods.
It's
Oh,
just. I'm trying to remember the advice that I've given others in the past, but it's hard.
yeah, I could see. I could see why.
I look
No,
back on everything that's happened in the last year and just shakes her head. That's a lot.
well, it's your business, whatever it is. But I know that well, things don't seem too terribly stirred um, around here. I'm told that there's always something to do, and I believe it. But
I
if ever,
there's like when we end one threat, another one pops up, and sometimes when we're not even done with that, others pop up. Like sometimes more than we can handle.
it seems like what calm we do have is a good time to, you know, put small ghosts to rest.
She nods. I'm trying. I am.
Hmm. Things, hmm. No, that's not a good way to start that sentence off. Hmm. I've seen some darkness myself. Um, Definitely not as much as you, I imagine, as you are an Adrian. But I guess what I do is I try to pay attention to little details in the present. I think that it helps ground me. I know what color my apartment is. I know how many steps there are before I have to take the elevator. I count the red lights that I bike past. Sometimes, sometimes I'll think to how many pens I have on my desk. It's anything that
She
makes my
nods.
mind think of something that isn't what I don't want to think about.
She nods. Uh, a good idea.
Everybody deals with everything differently, so I'm I'm no expert, but as you said, maybe it's a good idea.
I'm wondering if I should get a different apartment and rent out the one I've been living in because it might just be too many reminders.
Hmm.
uh, my wife died almost 3 months ago.
My condolences. I couldn't
I didn't
imagine
even know.
going.
I didn't even know she was sick. And I got a phone call that she was in the hospital on her last leg. She was fine when I had seen her a couple of days before. I got stuck in some pack and stuff business, so I didn't make it home for that next day, and then I get a phone call that she was dying. And I went and saw her, and I held her hand as she passed away. And to make it worse, my pack acted like they didn't even care. They weren't really there for me. So when our tribe called for warriors to go help with the hellhole in Scandinavia and my pack volunteered to go, I stayed behind.
Sam nods.
And that's just the more immediate things. Before that, pretty much everybody that I was close to and cared about is gone. And I tried not to let that affect me so much. But Alexis dying and my pack, try not to feel betrayed by them, but that's pretty much what they did. Been a lot to try and deal with and to get past.
I can't begin to imagine what any of that feels like. But
I hope that you never have to know what that feels like. I really do. I don't wish this on anybody.
Sam very cautiously, very casually starts to reach a hand out to touch her shoulder.
She'll let him. We lose people because, we're going to lose people. It's the ones outside of us, when you lose them, that hits the hardest. And believe me, I've been devastated each time I've lost somebody I care about. Try not to let it. I tried before that, I tried not to let it add up. And just kept moving forward. But each time it got harder. And I guess now I'm afraid to get close to anybody else because I'm afraid that once I do, they'll die too. So I keep my distance, and I just do what needs to be done. And Sam can tell that it hurts her to do that, though.
Sam is silent for as long as he can be, and lets her talk things out. And when a silence finally falls, a lingering silence, he just kind of has been ignoring his sandwich, but like now lowers it beyond like eating height. And it's kind of searches for the words to say for a second, and ultimately outs with there was once a silent strider, Galliard, at the sept that I come from. Who told me about loss, specifically about death. He says that it's going to happen to each and every one of us. A waning. But or out of character, maybe I'm thinking waxing. I think it's waning. I don't fucking remember. He'll say one of the sad ones.
Waning usually is the more like dark, and when you're the waning of the auspice, you're more likely to be the edgelord of that auspice.
Gotcha. Then yeah. Silent Strider Galliard, waning. He said that it's going to happen to each and every one of us, and that death is a universal constant. But he said that sometimes it only lingers if you let it linger. I don't know how true that is, but
She nods. And she looks to Sam. I really need to get back to who I was before. I once told somebody that pushing people away and not letting them in only hurts yourself more. And here I am, 7, 8 months later, not taking my own advice.
well, you say that you want to be who you were before, but I don't believe that that's possible anymore. For anyone. Remember who we were yesterday. Can only think to be a better person tomorrow. Take what we've seen, we felt, learned, and try not to let it drag us down. I'm sure sometimes it will. I know sometimes I get dragged down. Not very often. But who knows? For example, I am someone that likes to focus on the present. And as part of that, I've gone to putting in a little extra, doing missions with Jacob, and as well with Robin. But there was one that I did on my own. Well, not on my own, but something I wanted to go and look into. And I took Cammy and Kailani by the elbows. And I found something terrifying but magical. If that makes any sense.
She nods. What was it?
Tomatoes.
She blinks. Tomatoes.
Oh, no, sorry. My throat. We did not find tomatoes.
Oh, okay. She was confused. She's like, what? This was like the attack of the killer green tomatoes or something. She's seen stranger shit. Like,
so, the story goes as such. It was around midday, early afternoon, and something I'd read in the paper was kind of startling, and I wanted to know what I could do. Do you read the paper?
I do.
Did you read the article about the Garu that were arrested in Prospect Park in Brooklyn?
I remember.
Well, I wanted to know what I could do, and while I already know that Jacob is already doing his police magic mumbo jumbo to to try and get them out, I couldn't help but feel like there was something more. And as it turns out, I was right. So I thought to check out Prospect Park itself. Maybe see if I could find out what scared them or something strange there. And when I went there, I asked the kin and the Garu, more native to the area, what had happened. And they all said the same thing. They didn't know who those individuals were. And that they thought that they were crazy and irresponsible. They don't really know what happened. Nobody really knew what happened. And naturally, Galliard got curious.
Of course.
So,
I'm also usually a curious Galliard.
So, I thought if no one else could tell me, then maybe the spirits could, but I don't speak the language of the spirits. So I sought out the only theurge I knew to be available at the time, and that was Cammy. And in my search for Cammy, I found a Garu named Kailani, and
I know her.
she was at the Cairn Heart, wearing filthy clothes. She had food wrappers around her, like she hadn't moved from one spot in well over a week. She smelled like tears and chocolate.
Oh.
The chocolate helped.
I can imagine.
But I I took her by the hand, and I texted Cammy and said that we would meet at the Bawn of the Sept by 72nd Street. And so we did. When we did, we elected to take the subway because at least the subway is, while the electricity is powered off of fossil fuels, at least the emissions were less harmful to the environment from that medium than say different means of public transportation. And so yes, we took the subway, and there was a saxophone player, a busker, and they played just magnificently. Cammy and I both tipped what we could, and we all just danced. There weren't many people that wanted to stay around us, but we danced, and it was fun. I wasn't very good. Kailani was, but I wasn't very good. And so yeah, with smiles on our faces, we left the subway and had a brief walk to Prospect Park. It was the strangest thing when we got there. The most, oh my goodness, the strangest thing. We could hear children laughing, and people were smiling and enjoying the park. There wasn't really much in the way of litter. It was all very green. It was all very happy. But the strange part was that our phones, mine and Cammy's, we couldn't get a signal to save our lives. The Wi-Fi on our phones would switch on and off and on and off and on and off. We heard these crazy, little tones used to indicate when our phones have Wi-Fi and when they don't. And it just kept going. And there were vending machines by the restrooms, but they weren't on, they weren't lit, they weren't humming with the resounding that all vending machines tend to have before the dunk, a can falling down. There's no humming, there's no light, no cold emanating off of them, nothing. Practically dead. And this was alarming. It was very alarming. It was the first indication of strangeness. And Cammy and I were both somewhat alarmed. Kailani, true to form, was very much in the opinion of, how is this a bad thing? But after that, we went into the restrooms very nonchalantly. You could tell on his face, his expression nonchalantly may not have been 100% what it was. And we crossed over. And on the other side, there were no webs anywhere within sight in the park. None.
Wow.
Oh, it gets better. So from there, we thought it might be a good idea to look in the area where the guard were arrested. That maybe if there was a strangeness, it would be closer to that area. So we went that way. Along the way, we saw the first traces of webs, but they didn't stick. No, not in the way that it would trap a fly or a garter or anything that touches it that isn't a spider. It did not stick. And so, as we ventured in further, it was Cammy that spotted and pointed out where the spiders were as the webs began to thicken. And they were in the trees, off of the webs, in the trees. Lights were flashing. They almost looked in something of a panic or a confusion. Cammy said they kept saying the same thing over and over again. Obsolete, obsolete, obsolete. So, yes, we were something of a startled party. And as we went closer to this stage in the park, as we went closer, the webs got thicker and thicker to the point to where the path was littered in them, and we couldn't step anywhere that wasn't webbed. And still not sticky, so it wasn't too much of a problem. Still, the scenery was changing, becoming less natural. Something, you know, something out of a nightmare almost, but not the lives we live. And when we saw the stage, there were several large hunter spiders, all gathered in a circle around this large object, just covered in webs. And when I say large, it was about the size of a car. Cammy managed to speak to some of them and brokered it so that we could examine this thing. And when we did, we discovered a spider, a very, very large spider, but not like the pattern spiders. This one was bizarre. It was made of wooden bits and iron and brass bits. It wore a top hat that smoked like a chimney stack. And when they removed the webs, it spoke. It spoke to Cammy and Cammy to us and said that it came from somewhere else. Several Garu. It and many of its kind had worked with the Garu to bring them here. Well, not here, but into the deep Umbra. They sought to uncover some kind of secret. I don't know if they did or not. We may have to tell them when we find them, because it's incredibly important. But we found out was that while this spider was obsolete, it would upgrade and become one of the other spiders. And it could not do what it had done to bring the Garu to this time. Sam pauses for a second after he says this time.
Saoirse takes a breath.
The Garu that it brought with them. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this story. I only assume so. You're very well traveled. Much more than I assume. But this old spider brought with it a pack of Garu for the express purposes of learning the truths that would seal this Storm Eater once and for all.
He blinks.
Garu have traveled in time.
Were they from the past or the future?
The past.
They say what tribe they were.
They were from a whole mixture of tribes, apparently. When the article came out, I assumed that they were bone gnawers, which I realize now is ignorant of me.
Well, they were the ones that died. The ones from the past.
ones that died.
Or that were arrested, sorry.
Oh, you're good. Yes. Been trying to get a hold of Jacob to meet in person to discuss it.
Yeah. It would be good to be able to talk to them.
Mm.
I was like, again, Gar for the past. That's the fastest way to get her attention. Like,
Right.
she's an ancient history major. Um, uh, wow. So like, uh, Sam actually sees some light come back into her eyes, thinking about this. Like, oh my god.
I
Um,
know.
oh, the stories they could tell us. Okay, we need absolutely we need to talk to Jacob and see if we can either get them out or at least get to talk to them because uh,
Oh, we need to get them out. We need to get them out as
okay.
quickly as
We
possible.
do need to get them out. We need to see what we need to do to get them out.
These are the Garu that found the secrets in the deep Umbra for the right, that put an end to the Storm Eater once and for all. The very first time.
Wow. I would love to meet them. Yeah, we need to. She nods. She's now very invested in this.
I spoke to the spider. It said some very wise things as it turned its speech in a way that I could hear. And it said that we needed to be careful about what they learned because they couldn't learn it too fast. So I understand that there certainly is some urgency in getting them out because who knows what they've seen already.
And how long it took them? Time passes differently in the Umbra.
He knows.
Especially in the deep Umbra.
What's even more frightening is that spider couldn't return them back, not on its own, and not the way they came. So when I spoke to Garm about it, we had to come up with a way to get them back.
A portal or something?
I certainly don't know. He and I discussed that the secret might lie in umbral travel, a similar way that they got here.
Probably. That would make the most sense. I've have a little bit of experience with other umbral realms and using portals to get there, but not a lot. Certainly would know how to create one.
Me neither. I'd like
But
to. I imagine
well,
by the end of this we will.
one she'll look to Sam and she'll kind of smile and she'll say, one umbral realm I don't recommend going into if you can ever help it is Melpheus. The realm of the worm. Don't go in there.
Well, by the sound of it, I certainly don't want to.
You go in there and the worm messes with your mind. It makes you see, hear, and believe things that aren't true. Try to lure you to the, well, it's where the spiral is.
Really?
I saw it. It calls to you. We went there to rescue. Uh, well, no. We were investigating. A few of us were investigating these strange portals, symbols that popped up. It turned out to be a portal, and we ended up in the realm of the worm. Found out later it was called Malpheus, and one of while we were there, we found someone that happened to be a guard that had gotten trapped, kidnapped probably. He was an Uktena. She would recall his auspice because she has eidetic memory. I don't.
Talking about
I
Roanoke?
think Roanoke was an Arun, wasn't he?
That or Galliard. Wow, I don't remember either. Shit.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was over a year ago. It was like it was one of my very first scenes as Saoirse.
Fuck, we're old.
Yeah, we are. Like she's also realizing that she's the only one left on Sept that went on that mission.
Oh, Jacob?
Oh, Jacob. Okay, so there's two. Yes. Her and Jacob. Everyone else is either dead or left the Sept.
Woo!
Yeah.
Drink to that.
Um but anyway, we had gotten separated and yeah, it uh it 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 tries to drive you mad. It tries to make you believe things that aren't true. Make you see your closest friends in a different light. Uh a lot of us weren't the same after that. Friendships were strained. So, if you can help it, don't go there. But we rescued the Uktena. His name was Roanoke.
That's excellent. I will try my very best to not go there if I can help it. Sounds like a terrible place.
Well, my first experience with uh, the Emerald Realm actually was in the Amazon, where a being had pretty much rendered the veil, like to where there wasn't one, there was no gauntlet, there was no veil. The Umbra and the Tellurian ran into each other. And the realm that had come to being in the Tellurian side was Pangaea, which is the realm where the earliest events on Earth took place. There's kind of run into each other. There's early humans and dinosaurs and all kinds of stuff. Which, for an ancient history buff like me, was a great place. But we had to figure out why it was happening and stop it because it was spreading and was very dangerous for the Amazon.
haven't heard many tales from the Amazon, but I'm told you guys are some kind of famous for it.
I came in at the tail end of the trip. I was only there a couple of weeks. But I decided to go lend my aid before, because I was on my way to the Sept of the Green anyway, and decided to go lend my aid to them while they were there before coming back here. And in my short time there, I saw some stuff. Uh, um, I know before I arrived, there was a skull pig problem that they had to deal with. They saved the Sept of the Sacred Heart from. Uh, and while I was there, I helped take down. He called himself a god, but an elder god no less. He was certainly a very powerful spirit, but I'm not sure about god.
It's terrifying.
It was a lot. Um, I gave out some of my first deed names from that mission. Um, my thoughts are kind of all over the place. I'll one day properly tell you the tale in its entirety, but there were several of us, and no one died, but in that particular mission, but a couple came close. But we destroyed it and essentially saved the Amazon. She kind of like puts up her hands like, she doesn't, she's trying not to sound like it's bragging, but I mean, that's pretty much what they did.
And yeah, Sam has been watching with something that could be described as some form of reverence. This is he's been watching very intently. Let me Google reverence to make sure I use that word right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yay! I'm using my vocabulary properly.
Woohoo!
Yeah, he's been watching, like, the one kid at story time that's like, whoa! His world is kind of blown away. At the mention of, hearing it properly sometime, he does say, on your own time, whenever you feel up to it. I'm in no rush, though I am very excited to hear about it. Defeated a god, saved the Amazon. It's incredible.
She actually smiles, like talking about uh talking about this stuff seems to be helping her. Like it's almost as if she's forgotten some of the things that she's done and been part of. But yeah, she smiles and she nods. Yeah, some of these tales need to be retold, and honestly, I have some tales that I haven't told that now I'm probably the only person left that can tell them.
They need to be told by the sounds of it. And if no one else, I'll listen.
Thank you. I just I need to get back to telling stories. It would probably, no, not probably. It would help me a lot.
Sam nods. Sounds like you have a great many. I hope to have as many.
You will, especially if you stay around here. For my foster and challenge, I fought Bloodbanes and Homid.
Wow. What's a,
Ah,
what's a bloodbane?
so it is a. Do you know what a regular bane is? You know what banes
Yeah.
are? Okay. So the Bloodbanes are a. They're like a bit like regular banes, but they're made entirely of blood. They're pretty hideous creatures, and their blood is very acidic. You don't want to have one explode on you. Um, it's also really, really sticky. Uh, if you get surrounded by them, it can be very deadly. They're really, really terrible. We My fostering challenge was to lead a group of Garu and have at least one person not of my pack with me on any mission of my choice. And I went down the list of the things that the Wormfoe needed done and chose to get rid of a bloodbane nest that was in Harlem. And at the time, we had some Weaver hostility going on. It only got worse after that, but that's another story. Uh, and the spiders were not being very kind to us. So we had to make a deal with them in order for us to be able to get where we needed to go in the city via the Umbra. So the deal that, as the leader of the mission, I elected to make, I had three Theurges with me on that, but I let the person not of my pack, one of my very close friends, Felix, do the talking because he was the glasswalker. And he gave a few options of what they would want, and I went with all of us being in our breed forms for a week. We couldn't shift, including the mission that we were about to undertake. The reason for that is because I was pretty sure I was going on my own instincts that we would be okay because we had one Metis with us. So she was able to be in Krynos.
Sam nods, his brows furrowed with a bit of concern.
So we couldn't shift for a week. We were able to bottleneck the Banes in an alley. Alona, the Metis, she grappled the Banes for us while my other packmates and Felix either shot at it with their guns. I stabbed it with a knife. Kumba was trying to do something. Use one of his gifts. It didn't work. But that was my first pack. Teresa Kumba and Alana. Alana is alive. She went to the Amazon. Teresa and Kumba are dead now. And Felix too.
Sorry to hear that. I'd heard about Teresa and Felix on Memorial Day. They sounded like very brave Garu.
They were. trusted both of them with my life. Um, but so she grappled while the rest of us pummeled them to death, and none of us got one scratch on us from the Banes, and we were able to eradicate the nest and clean it up. And it ended up being a very successful mission, and then went the rest of the week without being able to shift, which was hard for Alana the Metis. Uh, she wasn't able to leave the Sept, really. She could go via the Umbra, but at that time, Umbral travel, especially after we came back and reported the increasing hostility of the spiders, Umbral travel was all but banned uh, outside of the Sept because of how hostile the Weaver was becoming.
Okay.
And then we were allowed to live on Sept. We can't do that now. I can't imagine what would happen if if something like that happened again. I suppose the Order would probably allow us to stay on Sept, but we don't have this, we don't have what we had before. So it would be different and more. I don't know if it would be more difficult. I guess we would just be using Tellurian means of travel for more than what we did before. Just some places it's easier to get to with the Umbra, you know.
Yes.
But we've dealt with quite a lot on this sept, and some of the cycles seem to repeat themselves, especially with the presence of uh worm tainted companies and things like that. Like we've had the bloodbane problem again since the time I was just telling you about. It was been dealt with again. I imagine they'll probably crop back up at some point soon. Seems to be every few months.
Still, the Scepter of the Green stands.
It does. And it's weird to be here as one of the older members of the Sept. I remember when I was brand new. Anyway, um,
It certainly sounds much more calm now. It's probably for the best.
it seems to be. It was chaos for a little while. Um, I know that most of the time we're supposed to tell tales about others, but I think what I'm realizing right now in this conversation that it's important to also remember your own deeds and tell those too.
Sam nods with a smile.
I have, well, this latest deed name, while fitting, definitely isn't my most proud, but it is my fifth.
What's your deed names before it?
Screams the Huntsman's Fury. Um, Dragon Rend. That's an interesting story. Oh, The one in between Dragonrend and Screams the Huntsman's Fury was Outsmarts the Devil. That was from my Adrian challenge. And my first one was Audacious Heart. It was from my Fostering challenge. It's what I was named after. I led that mission, fought Bloodbanes and Homid.
Oh, fine deed names indeed. No, I've just the one. I'm proud of it.
You should be. How did you get it?
It's not very impressive, but I once, before I knew what I was or anything about all of this, my grandmother told me tales about these guardians of the forest and how they fought to protect what was quickly shrinking in the natural world as people expanded and built and mistreated the forests. Are these guardians that would stand vanguard and true. And after my first change, I realized that I was one of them, and that the stories were true. I used this as something of a motivation when I was still a cub, when I was learning and absorbing every piece of information that I could, as I still do. But there was a really bad problem. My grandmother has dementia. So there are a great many stories that she knows that are lost.
Gersha frowns. I'm sorry.
And he nods with a small frown. She was receiving some treatment at one of the hospitals nearby, and her condition seemed to get worse. Out of some manner of curiosity, I took that medication to one of the Theurges, and it reeked of worm taint.
Ouch.
She's recovered. Wasn't the end.
Good.
But there was a bigger problem. This medication was being used at a facility and distributed at a facility working out of one of our hospitals. That company was Iago.
Oh. Damn.
That's why I'm here. But when we dealt with Iago, since I was the first person on it, admittedly I was somewhat selfish, and there was only so much aid that I sought and so much that I told. I wanted to make sure I had more of a foundation before I presented my research and I did my homework, and I had this mountain, really a mountain of information on this facility, and I presented it. I presented it to the Glasswalkers as a cub. Part of my rite of passage was to take down this worm-tainted place, this worm-tainted company that I had discovered. And I presented this information. And after I had, a great many of us went in there and did as we do. And we drove them far out of Philadelphia. They haven't returned since. And for seeking out that truth, I'm using the tales that was told to me before, and using them as my inspiration, my driving force. It was said that what was instilled with me reverberates. And the glasswalker that accepted me as a Cleith deeded me reverb.
She smiles. It is definitely fitting.
He smiles.
And don't be selling yourself short. It's no small task to do what you did, and that is exciting.
We all have a job, each and every one of us, and that's how we're going to win this. We each have a job to do, and I know mine is not on the front line. I have been and will be mocked for it until the day that I can be on the front line, which may be never for all I know. But that's where I belong.
I was not always, well, being a Fiona, growing up Fiona, I did grow up knowing how to fight, but always understood that as a Galliard, unless an Arun wasn't present or for some reason couldn't do their job, that I was not on the front line. My job was to inspire to keep the frontliners going. But as Galliards, we are sometimes required to fill in for something that's missing. So when I got into my first pack, we were a war pack. So my alpha decided that I was going to learn how to fight well. So she trained me up. And now if I need to be on the front line, I can be. And I have been. And I recently picked up a gift that usually only Aruns have. That way, in case I'm needed, I have it.
Sam nods.
So that is, for me, one of the most important things I can impart on another Galliard as a Galliard is to remember that we have a lot of jobs to do. We are not so much arguably the most important auspice.
He nods. Kind of looks down some, but nods.
And I'm not saying that you need to go hit the gym or anything right now. Just be open to doing whatever it is you need to do. And don't be afraid to learn how to fight. But right now, it's not really needed. As you said, things are calm for the most part. We need sharper mental skills than physical, which you definitely have those.
And he smiles with his big bright eyes. With a nod. If I have my strength, it's certainly there.
Which is definitely nothing to scoff at.
I certainly think not. It can be hard. It hasn't been hard here yet, but in Philadelphia and many other places in the nation, people pride themselves on their physical prowess, and correct and incorrect are often determined by by physical prowess.
She nods. Oh, we value everyone's skills that they bring to the table here. Whatever it is you can do, there's a place for you, which is what I love about this sept.
I don't know how long I'll stay. So long as Iago is still a problem here, you have me.
She smiles. Good. She takes a deep breath. Kind of blinks. You've helped me a lot today. Thank you.
He smiles. Says, absolutely any time ever.
Can I hug you?
And he opens his arms, casting his sandwich aside without dropping.
She hugs him tightly.
He pats her back with his one free hand.
And I think that that's probably a great place to end the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, player, for playing. And thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.